Hello and welcome to another episode of Scott Reads Comics. Today I'm going to be covering Jim Starlin's Warlock. Now, in episodes 58 and 59 of the show, I did actually pretty extensive read-throughs of Warlock Special Editions 1 and 2, respectively, and we'll get to those. And I may actually do read-throughs of the rest of them at some point. But this is such an important story to me, and I think one of the coolest stories in the history of Marvel Comics, that I thought I would kind of do a survey on all the different ways you might access this story. I've got a lot of samples of those different sources that this story was published in with me here today, and I'm going to share those sort of in chronological order. But just in brief, as a character, Warlock started out as him in FF 66 to 67 in 1967. He was later rebranded as Adam Warlock in Marvel Premiere #1 by Roy Thomas and Gil Kane. That was 1972. In between his appearance in FF and his rebranding as Adam Warlock, he had a run-in with Thor where he got his rear end kicked by Thor. Then they rolled from Marvel Premiere into Power of Warlock issues 1 through 8, which ran from 1972 to 1973. At which point the book was canceled, but the dangling storylines from that series, where sort of Adam Warlock was kind of rebranded from him to Adam Warlock as a result of Roy Thomas's love of Jesus Christ Superstar, I think. And so he kind of had messianic overtones to him. And that really came to fulmination in Hulk 176 to 178, which was published in 1974. And you can really see that strongly in that storyline where Warlock is essentially the savior of Counter-Earth, taking on the man-beast and really taking on strong messianic tones there. So at that point, the story was kind of ended. Warlock basically flies off into space at the end, leaving the people of Counter-Earth to kind of chart their own course, which I guess you could say would be akin to, the Christ descending into heaven or whatever. Not a religious scholar, but that's kind of, I think, what Roy might have been going for in sort of an oblique way. So at that point, the character is once again kind of left fallow. Later on, in mid-1970s, 1975 to be more specific, Jim Starlin, after a dispute with Marvel that saw him leave Captain Marvel, and then when the dispute was resolved, another creative team was in place on Captain Marvel, so they offered Jim Starlin, hey, you want to do another character? Well, you can do it. You can do your cosmic stuff. So after a bit of searching around, Starlin settled on Adam Warlock as an interesting character that he could, explore some of his cosmic themes and other themes with. So Warlock the Jim Starlin era of Warlock began in Strange Tales 178 to 181. That was in 1975. And then they brought Warlock back. It was so popular, they brought Warlock back into his own book and continued the numbering from the canceled series. So Warlock number 9 picked up the story from Strange Tales 181. That was in 1975. And then concluded, the saga, as we know it, would conclude in Avengers Annual 7, and then in a subsequent Marvel 2-in-1 annual. So we're going to go through some of these incredible ways to read this story. So what I have here are two. This is a facsimile edition of that Strange Tales 178, which featured the first appearance of Jim Starlin's version of the character. And again, I go through this in detail in my episode 58, so you can check that out. But these issues, the actual issues from this era are not cheap. Depending on condition. If you want to get them in nice shape, you're probably going to pay $15 or $20 an issue, depending. But yeah, great stuff here. And then so here I have one of the newsprint actual Warlock number 10, which is totally great. I love the newsprint version. It's really cool. And of course, you get it as it was originally presented in all of its cosmic weirdness. Really great here. Really love Steve Leialoha's inks on Jim Starlin's pencils on this. And Starlin's doing the colors, I think, in this one too. Let me double check. Yeah, so really cool. And I was super glad I was able to pick this up at Ides. Very nice copy too. So that was a nice addition. So where I first discovered Warlock was in 1980. There was a series called, excuse me, short-lived series called Fantasy Masterpieces. And this is where I first read Warlock. In fact, it was Fantasy Masterpieces number 12 that I got in a trade with my friend in the neighborhood. And of course, at this time, they were reprinting the John Buscema, Stan Lee Silver Surfer stories in the front. And then in the back, we were getting our Warlock, our dose of Warlock here. And this is how I discovered Warlock. This was my first experience of Warlock here. This incredible splash page. Look at that Magus. So awesome. Really cool. And unfortunately, as would happen with Marvel Superheroes and Marvel Super Action, the reprint line, this book was canceled before it could finish the Warlock story. It got pretty deep. I only currently own issues 10, 12, and 13. But if you're looking for a way to read Warlock on newsprint, at least most of the saga, in a cheaper way, grabbing these is not a bad idea. And they look really great. So this was my first contact with Warlock in 1980. Love these. I'm going to track them all down eventually. So then, like I've talked about before on the show, and I've actually read these on the show, we have the Warlock special editions. They're gorgeous. Printed in 1982 on Baxter paper with beautiful new wraparound covers by Jim Starlin. Really nice. And the reproduction in these is incredible. The Baxter paper is really great. Again, this is another great way to read these. If you don't mind not reading them on newsprint, you want something a little better, but you don't like slick paper, not a bad way to go. And again, I was just rooting through the dollar bins at Ides again this morning, and these are there. You can get them there. I saw number 1. They have 35 copies of number 5 for some reason. I don't understand, but they do, and I've joked about that on the store before, on the show before. But yeah, the whole saga is here all the way up until the incredible climax with the 2 annuals and the ultimate undoing of Thanos. Who, remember, he starts the series as Warlock's ally, his unwitting ally. Or Warlock is his unwitting ally. So, repeated verbatim 10 years later in 1992, the Warlock special editions are done again, this time with another new set of covers from Jim Starlin, except these ones aren't wraparounds. And the paper's nice. It's not Baxter paper, but nor is it shiny paper, which is nice. It's not that slick magazine paper. This is almost as if they had finally perfected that flexographic printing process, because you don't get any of the weirdness of the flexographic that we saw in the later 80s. And it doesn't have quite the thickness of the Baxter paper, but it is nice paper nonetheless. And again, we're getting some really great reproductions here of this classic story. And I only have 1 to 4 in this 1992 version, so I will be on the lookout for issues 5 and 6 to complete my collection. Because like I said, I only get 1 to 4 from here. I should add too that issue 5 of these collections, both of them, you're getting some Byrne too. Great Byrne story with Spider-Man and Warlock battling the Stranger. In the Elder of the Universe, the Gardener shows up. So John Byrne with some nice Dave Hunt inks. Really cool stuff. There have been a number of graphic novel collections of Warlock. I do not have the trade paperback, which I think is like, it's sort of akin to an Epic collection before Epic collections exist. I don't know if it's in print anymore, but it was like a Warlock Saga collection or something, which collected the whole storyline. Don't have that one. It's cool though if you can track it down. What I do have is this oversized Warlock Jim Starlin collection, which is really great. It's actually really too big to do justice here with my iPad set up the way I have, but I'm gonna just sort of flip through it just to give you an idea. Again, my only beef with this is, of course, the slick paper is kind of a nuisance to me for reading, but it is beautiful. It's an incredible book. It was well worth the price tag, which was $50. Not bad for what you get here, because what I really like is some of the supplementary material in the back here, which I'm going to page 2. You get a lot of pencils. I think this is the Alan Weiss. This is the Alan Weiss story Warlock story that went missing. I think it was lost. These are the only pages that are, Warlock's lost issue was an inventory story anticipated to run possibly as issue 15 or 16 at the time. It was penciled by artist Alan Weiss. It was accidentally left behind in a New York City taxi when Alan's friends helped him unload. The story was never completed. So pretty great. I wonder if those pages exist anywhere. But gorgeous Alan Weiss artwork nonetheless. And we get a nice house ad. Again, I renew my plea to Marvel to please produce their house ads in a collection. Just a lot of little tidbits in here. Original cover pieces. You get the reproduced pages with the notes. Great foam cover here with Warlock in the corner there. Here's a Marvel November calendar. Warlock is on November 4th. And then, okay, so here's a reproduction gallery of all the covers from Fantasy Masterpieces. Really great. So it started with issue 8 and goes all the way through issue 14 before it was unceremoniously canceled. So too bad for that. But I'm going to track all these down because I'm a nutter and I just love the story so much that I want it in as many versions, especially if it's another newsprint alternative. It's a cheaper newsprint alternative to the original books. So, yeah, I'm going to have to track all of those down. And you're getting these incredible Silver Surfer stories in the front store. So you just can't lose here. It's just awesome. So, yeah, really good. Couple splash pages. Some Al Milgrom editorial on the Warlock Special Edition publication. Those great Al Milgrom cartoons that he did at the beginning of the special editions. And we get some official handbook entries, which is cool. In-Betweener, Gamora, Pip the Troll, Thanos, of course, Warlock himself. Great shot of the Soul Gem here. Sorry, this book is so big, it's hard to keep in frame. everything. Great Alan Weiss reimagining of Alan Weiss and Joe Rubinstein of that fight in the Marvel 2-in-1 annual. Really great. And then here are the 1992 reprints, which again mirror the 1982 ones, just with new, different covers by Starlin. I need 5 and 6. They're the hardest ones to find in this 1992 version. Keep my eyes peeled for those. And then, okay, so yeah, so here are some of the other trade paperbacks where this was reprinted. Central Marvel 2-in-1. So this is just going to have the Marvel 2-in-1 annual in it. Essential Warlock Volume 1 trade paperback, which that was published in 2012. Yeah, that would be a good one to track down too. That's probably the black and white. So look for that one. Here's the Warlock Complete Collection. This is the one I was talking about. That was a 2014, so I'm sure that's actually long out of print. Here's another 2014 Complete Collection piece of artwork. A couple Thanos pieces. Nice piece on Jim Starlin at the end. So yeah, that's just a quick survey of all the different ways that you can Warlock, basically. You can experience the story in so many different ways. If you haven't read it, I really urge you to do so. I will eventually finish my coverage of the special edition on the show, and I may do that sooner rather than later because it's only 4 more issues to cover. Oh, well, I hope you enjoyed this brief survey and history about Warlock. I really had a good time putting this together and talking about it. It's just one of my favorite Marvel stories, really one of my favorite comic stories of all time, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe, tell your friends, and I'll bring you more soon on Scott Reads Comics. Thanks for watching.